Welcome to another episode of T.H.O.T.S Podcast. We are not thoughts, but we have thoughts. True, honest opinions towards success. Join us for another candid conversation and valuable insight on achieving success in life and navigating through today's culture. Hosted by myself, T.H.O.T.S, along with some incredible guests. We're here to explore you on your journey of triumph. Let's dive in. All right. Hello. Welcome back to another exciting episode of T.H.O.T.S Podcast. And we just had to get your attention because we are not thoughts over here, but we have thoughts, true, honest opinions towards success. And I am elated and excited because I know this conversation is going to bless the lives of a lot of people because my special guest is a renowned, when I tell y'all renowned life and relationship coach. She's a self-care coach, and she unapologetically caters to the Black woman. And so I like to bring on the one and only Fila Antwine to the room with us. Hello, Fila.
How are you? I'm super excited and happy to be here. Thank you for having me, girl.
Of course. Thanks for being here. I'm excited to have you because I watch your content, and if you guys are not following Fila, she's on Instagram, Facebook as she is Fila. And for years I thought that was your whole name, and I used to say it together. I was like, oh, her name is Fila. Okay. So she's definitely somebody that you are interested in taking the way that you think as a woman to another level. And I mean, like, in the area of femininity, you want to follow this woman, okay? And so let's get into it. Well, welcome, Fila.
Girl.
To have you here. Are you in New York? You're from New York, right?
I am in New York, and child, listen, we are searching for a new home. So I think I'm going back to the South. My roots are calling me. So we'll be making a move soon, but we are still in New York at the moment.
Oh, nice. Well, it's no place like New York. I'm from New Jersey, and for sure, if you come down to North Carolina, I will be your tour guide. Sure.
I might take you up on that. You know, we want to leave New York, but take New York with us. So it's always a blessing to have someone who will help us out. Uh-oh, girl, I think you're frozen. Ooh. I will absolutely take you up on that offer, girl. You know, the thing about New Yorkers is that we get to a point where we want to leave New York, but we want to bring New York with us. And that's the hold up.
There's no place like New York. Even when I go back home, the vibe is just different. One thing I will say is different between the two. It is definitely slower, and it's something you have to get used to if you come down here, especially in the area of business. You know, they're going to eat. They're going to do all. They always like to eat, and it's like, girl, I thought this was an hour meeting.
Like, let's go.
Exactly. But definitely, well, tell us a little bit about you. I already talked about you being a coach, a life coach, relationship coach. But what led you into the knowing that this is what you're supposed to do?
So, first of all, I am a woman's woman. I grew up in a family full of women and full of feminine energy, and womanhood was always celebrated. So, when I went out into the world, I thought that that was normal, right? I thought that women got along. My mother is one of 11 children, and she has 11 cheering, as my grandmother would say. And she's one of 7 girls. So we stayed at our aunt's houses on the weekends. They did my hair before school. If my mom had to work, like there was never an issue because it really was a village. And then I started to grow and move away from family. And I realized that not every family operated this way and that not every woman knew what it was to be supported by other women.
Whew,
girl, right? And so that really impacted me. And I had my own issues with with just girls and girlfriends and the kind of things that happen. And I recognized that there were these foundational gaps because they didn't have the connection to women. They didn't have the self assurance as a woman. They didn't have the ideology that really I came from when it came to womanhood and sisterhood and those things. And so I think it sparked something in me. And then there were other things along my journey, which I'm sure we'll get into, that really truly positioned me to do this work from a God place, right? I often say, this is not just what I learned, but it's what I lived. And I'm able to combine and merge the two when I'm coaching clients.
Nice. Okay. All right. So I was around a lot of women, but were the women in your family like, well, you did say they were more supportive. But do you find that a lot of, because when I look at my background, we had a lot of women, they were supportive to some extent, but a lot of, like, I didn't ever feel comfortable being 100% myself because your girl cousins, they'll make you feel bad for being great sometimes, right? The jealous,
Mm.
those different things. So what would you say that you saw the biggest difference in your upbringing versus the majority of people that you were interacting with? And or were some of those like childhood friendships that, because some of the girls I look back, I don't know why I even hung out with some of these people, but
Mm-hmm.
did you experience what differences did you experience with those two demographics?
So, first, my foundation, right? My foundation of being raised by my mother, her sisters, my grandmother, my maternal grandmother, who I'm actually named after. Her name is Fila. Her name was Fila. She's been gone quite a while now, but she's still with us in energy and spirit. And so I'm named after her. I also had a very close relationship early on with my father's siblings, and he's the only boy of five. So I had four aunts over there and a grandmother, and then I had my grandmother and my mother and her sisters. And so here's the thing that I think really made the most profound impact is that my mother and her sisters were like family to my father's sisters as well. So
Mm-hmm.
all of the women on both sides of the family were connected. And I never saw, felt, or experienced any jealousy between them. So the women who raised me worked together for the good of each other. My mother and her sisters, right now, to this day, those who still live in New York, they go to the park and walk together. We were just at the park walking a couple miles together last week. They speak to one another on the phone every day. They run errands for one another. So the dynamic of womanhood that I come from is one that was extremely supportive. And it was this deep level of sisterhood where they felt like they had to protect each other. And so there was no jealousy or animosity between us. It was like, okay, well, you're the bougie one, you're the ghetto one, you're the talk too much one. And everybody was okay with that. And I think that's what really separates my experience from so many others. I have to be honest and say, I do not know another family as close and as tight knit as my mother's family was and is to this day. So that's what really made the difference for me. So when it came to cousins, and of course we had our spats and we had little girl jealousies because society tells women that we need to compete with
Right.
one another. So that messaging came in, but because the foundation was laid and we had an elder committee of mamas and aunties that would always set us straight and that opened up their homes to each of us and never treated me different and never treated my cousins differently. So no matter whose home we were at, we were all mothered in the same way.
So why do you think some families don't have that village? Because it sounds like you're describing exactly what a village looks like. You know how they say it takes a village to raise a child, it takes a village to raise the youth. Why do you think a lot of, because I do remember at one point you would get in trouble if you did this, or you had the neighbors looking out for you, but you're saying even within the in-laws, they were looking out for each other. Why do you think we got the village mentality?
Well, I think that that's a really loaded question, right? It's multi layered because if we go back to what is foundational in the Black community. It is that village mentality. It is that village society. But when you are breaking away at a community and you are breaking away at a society and you are infiltrating their foundation, like white supremacy and racism and enslavement and oppression has done, it creates these gaps. And so there are always going to be some families who hold on to those foundational things, but it takes a really strong matriarch or a really strong patriarch to instill those things in the members of the family. And I believe that that's what my grandmother did, even in the midst of tragedy and trauma and great migration from North Carolina and South Carolina and the crack epidemic and all of those things. Right. And so we have so many challenges and so many struggles that all families are going to have some cracks. But that was the thing that my grandmother, who was the matriarch of our family, drove home. Family is number one. You take care of each other, you protect each other, and you don't let anything come in between that. Doesn't mean that we are perfect at all, but it
Yeah.
means that no matter what is happening, that is our foundational thread. And we always go back to that. And I think that a lot of other families have lost the ability to hold on to that thread because of all of the other chaos and trauma and drama that they've experienced individually, collectively, and as a community.
Right. I totally agree with that 100%, especially when you said the crack era, because I think that's the what is it, the broke the camel's back? How does it go?
That's straw.
The straw that broke the camel's back. I really think the crack era really did a thing on us as a society and as a people. But moving forward, be going into talking about what a lot of people want to know about, where a lot of people are searching for love in all the wrong places. And just for the record, you are married. How long have you been married? And you got
This
2 or 3 kids.
so this year will make 14 years that we've been married. We've been together for 20 years and we have two children, an 18-year-old and an 11-year-old.
And he's 18.
Girl, he's a whole man now, driving my car and going to work and in college and all the things.
Oh my God, I didn't realize they were so close. Well, my youngest, he'll be 20 next month. Wow. Oh my
Oh,
gosh.
you a good girl.
Thank you. My oldest is 21, and it's definitely a different phase. But being married that long, how it's so rare. Like when I think of people that's like my parents are still together, which is very rare. I think I'm one of the only. I'm trying to think. All my friends, if it was like 6 or 7 of us growing up, I think it was only 2 of us who had families that were still together and that's still together today.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think is the key to a long lasting relationship?
Mm.
Marriage.
So,
Because I know
there
it
are
ain't.
so there are 3 core areas to any healthy relationship. And this is something I address with clients in coaching, right? And those things are communication, clarity, and connection. So there has to be communication with the partners. What do you like? What are you going to do? Here's our life. This is what we're building. Just general communication.
Mm-hmm.
Then there has to be a place where the communication is taken and it's clarified because we're not going to agree on everything, right?
Yeah.
And so there may be things that one partner says that the other doesn't like, but as long as we create the space to communicate, we can gain an understanding. But then there has to be clarity, right? What does this really mean to you? How does this make you feel? This is where it gets messy and the resentment and the anger and the negative emotions tend to come up. But at the end of the day, there always has to be connection. How do we reconnect? Because we get to be individuals in this space, even though we're together, but we have to continually strive to reconnect, right? So that's on that like structural level where we need communication, we need clarity, and we need connection. But at the heart of the matter, you simply need 2 people who have decided that they are going to work for the success of their relationship.
Right.
If you don't have that, if we're not both saying this is important to me and this is important to you, and so we're collectively going to work for this to be the best that it can be, It doesn't matter how much communication, clarity, connection there is, because the commitment is not there. So what really makes a relationship work is both people being on the same accord and being willing to submit individually for the collective good of that relationship.
Nice. Okay, that's so you said clarity, communication,
Communication, clarity, and connection,
connection.
right? Those are
Okay,
the three C's to a committed relationship.
nice. Y'all, I hope y'all grab your pen and papers. I forgot to tell you that. And so I totally love those three, the three C's. Do you think there is a not lack of communication, because I think it's more than lack of. Do you think that there is a struggle in communication in 2024 for Black women and men?
I do not think that there's a lack of communication. No. We
Not
talk to each
lack, not
other.
lack, because I don't want to say lack. I want to
Okay.
say not a lack, but a struggle with communication.
So here's the thing. I think that there is a struggle with the clarity, right? We're
Mm,
communicating with each other. We're
right.
talking at each other. We're yelling. We're screaming. We're disagreeing. We're throwing each other under the bus. We are communicating, but we are not getting to the point where either of us is giving the other the opportunity to clarify what they mean, to
Mm,
clarify what they need, to clarify what they're feeling, and to clarify where that communication is coming from. Why? Because we're all getting hurt feelings.
yeah.
And our egos are so big that neither of us wants to hear the negative aspects of us. We don't want to hear about our flaws. We each have been through so much trial and trauma that we simply want to be seen and held and accepted. But that's not how grown-ups do healthy relationships. You have to
Yeah.
hear from each side. Then we have to have a space where we can begin to clarify, because that's where healing can start. So the
Yeah.
issue is not that we are not communicating, it is that we are not clarifying what's underneath the communication. All right, well, you think that I don't care about you. Why do you feel like that? What happened to make you feel like that? How can I do better here? Where do we go from this point on? And that being allowed on both sides. And so I think it really is about the clarity. And because we're not getting clarity, we're never moving to that point where we can begin to reconnect as a whole.
Yeah. Whew. Girl, you're giving me goosebumps over here because it's like because we tend to focus on the communication, but you're right. Whether you're communicating bad or good, it's still communication. But
Exactly.
clarity is definitely what's clear, concise, you know, kind of like in business. You got to be very clear or you're not going to get the result that you're looking for, right?
Right, right.
So Fowler, you are, and I won't say an anonymous because, you know, I know people who are married, but a lot of us women, we're getting past 30, 35.
Mhm.
We have a desire to be married. But then when I look at stats like this, and it really breaks my heart, and I'm part of that stat, is when it says 72% of Black babies are born to unmarried mothers. What do you think is the problem with that? And why do you think that is? I know that it's a big compacted uh, question, and it's a hard stat because I do believe that certain things, like I don't think that we're over the things that we've experienced. I think we are passing down spiritual trauma. But what do you think that we can do to change that? That narrative.
So it is a loaded question, like you said, right? And there are so many layers. And earlier on, when you were introducing me, you talked about how I am unapologetically in support of Black women.
Yeah.
And this is one of the reasons why, because we have such a layered legacy of
Mm.
love. And there are so many traumatic things in there. And, I don't always want to be the girl to take it back to everywhere, but we have to in order to
Yeah.
really understand our pathology. And so when we look at, and again, you and I are both Black American women. So this may be more specific to the Black American culture, but I think on a global level, we can all understand because we have similar experiences, right?
Right.
And so when we look at The way that we live our lives now as Black women, it comes from that legacy of enslavement in this country.
Yeah.
Where we were not allowed to marry on the plantations. It was illegal for a Black man and a Black woman to be married. That's why we have the tradition of jumping the broom,
Right.
because we always had a broom in our hand. We were always cleaning. And that was something that the plantation owner, because I don't like to say master, because no one is the master of you but yourself, right? But the
Yeah, right.
plantation owner
Sorry.
wouldn't be alarmed to see us with a broom. They wouldn't know a wedding was going on. They wouldn't be alarmed to see us jumping over the broom, because we add flavor to everything. We're always moving, dancing. And so that was something that we had to keep secret. So we have to recognize that it's not shameful to acknowledge that those experiences are still impacting us now, today. So we come from that legacy of marriage not being legal. We then have to take into account the sexual and intimate trauma that Black women and Black men experienced during that time. There's also a connection between those experiences and to why many Black women report that they don't like physical touch. They don't want to be touched. They don't like physical intimacy, right? And there then is a connection between Black men's misalignment in fatherhood and in husbandship with how they were taken from plantation to plantation to plantation to procreate and to create fatherless children.
Yeah.
So all of that has to be taken into account. It is a part of our spiritual psychology. It is a part of our DNA, and it now has become a part of our pathology. However, we are moving past that, but we have to start there, in my humble opinion.
See, I agree with you 100%. There's a couple of things that I just wanted to pull out. Number one, a lot of people tend to forget that we didn't just come over here like, I want to be a slave. Like, we was fighting. There was a point where white slave owners, I was about to say the N word because we not going to say that on this show no more.
No, ma'am.
But white slave owners had to figure something out in order to make this a profitable exchange. And it got to a point where they would stop taking first generational Africans. They only wanted Africans at one point that were born here, bred here, and they already went through the psychological issues, or not issues, but psychological trauma that they had to instill in us, because we were not just going to be slaves. This is why they took away our language. This is why they took away our food. This is why they did all these things. So I just want to make that as we did not come over here just happily running into slavery. They did very many things that I think we forget as women. They say men protect and provide, but Black men could not, like you said, legally could not do it. So as a woman, you're left almost alone in this whole world where you have to watch this man, and you know for a fact, if this man stands up for me, my man's going to die.
Yeah.
Oh God, I'm getting emotional thinking about that. And I don't want to get emotional, but I am. But when you think about that and the in-depthness of that trauma, it makes total sense to why we're here today.
Right. And then it breeds fear of, right, the external threat, but it also breeds resentment between Black women and Black men.
Right, because you can't protect me. Even though I don't want you to die, even though I know it's illegal, you still have not been able to do that. And then here we are today, because I think we still did a great job with all of the trials and tribulations until I think that's where they got us, the welfare era.
Yeah.
I remember the conversation when I was pregnant. Well, if you don't put them on, then you can get more stamps. And if giving you the breakdown on how to manipulate the system, but in reality, the system was manipulating us.
Yes, ma'am.
So
yes, ma'am.
That just hit me right in the heart, thinking about that. Like, now when we look at it and we go, well, why are we this way? Like you said, we're not going to stay this way, but we definitely have to persevere and move forward.
Right. Right.
But Whew, okay, that was loaded. But going back to what you do, and I love, why do you call it the sacred? Because you have an academy, you have a kingdom, which I
The
love.
queendom.
Queendom,
Yes.
excuse me. So is it the sacred queendom?
It's the Sacred Queendom and Sacred Queen Academy. Yes.
Okay, okay. And so the terminology that you use, and I've said this before on a previous show that I'm so over the bad bitch era versus the queen. Like at one point, black women were like revered as queens. We didn't have to do much to be looked at. But I feel like media today is purposely trying to carve us to look a certain way, act a certain way, and be a certain way, which we are not. But why did you pick Sacred Queen Academy of all names? Why
Mhm.
that?
So, two reasons, right? I believe that this work that I do, I'm positioned to do it.
Mm,
I believe that this information that I share and disseminate comes through me and not from me. It is connected to something of a higher power. It is divine. It is sacred, right? And
right.
I have always revered womanhood from my background, upbringing, all of that. And I do see myself as a queen. I
Yeah.
see my sisters as queens. I have a level of self assurance and self confidence that I learned in my life was not common. And so having a queen's nature means so much to me in the way of self confidence and self assurance. When it comes to even just the definition of what a queen is, it really is simply a woman who rules her own life, who rules herself, who decides what gets to happen for herself.
Mm,
And there are a lot of women who I've heard say, well, a queen is just a queen because she's the wife of the king.
mm-mm.
And I've had to say, well, you might want to take a step back, right? And let's reconsider who runs the home. It's usually the mother and the wife. Who runs the community? It's usually the women who are setting the stage for everyone within the family and that community dynamic to be able to move in the way that they need to. Who is the most important piece on the chessboard? The queen.
Mm-hmm.
And when we look at Black women, when I look at Black women, I see such a regal energy and spirit and beauty. And so for me, it is about bringing what is divine into this space, reminding Black women that you are a queen in your own life. You get to rule from your throne, and you deserve to have life give you the royal treatment in every area. And that's where the idea of the Sacred Queendom and Sacred Queen Academy comes from. Because why should Black women have to settle for anything less than the royal treatment?
Right. And I love that you said some people say to you, but that's just because she's king, the king's wife. But the king chose her. I'm sure he had many different choices, but there's a reason. What do you? It's two questions for the woman who is going off of media, because media right now, in my opinion, does not promote being a queen. You know, if you go based off of the media, you got not just black men, but I only know who I am, but black men, black women complaining about what they don't want from a woman and what women don't do right, and women
Mm-hmm.
doing the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
You got the era F for men, I get some money type of era. How do you think a woman who's tired of what is not, in my opinion, what men want anyway, ultimately, um, to get to their queenship, like going from ratchetness to royalty? There you go.
Mm-hmm.
How
There we
can
go.
a woman go from ratchetness to royalty?
So, first and foremost, you can be a ratchet queen too.
I love it.
Listen, right? No woman has to be like another woman.
Right.
You get
I
to be
love
who you
that.
are. And that's a part of this whole conversation of the sacred queendom, is that you don't have to conform in order to show up in your queenship, in order to get the royal treatment that you deserve, right? When
Right.
we think about ratchetness, the problem is that it generally is minimizing you as a feminine woman. It's minimizing your power. It's minimizing your value, and it's minimizing your worth. That doesn't mean that you can't have fun, that you can't be a little hood, that you can't have a big mouth. You can do all of those things and be who you are, as long as it's authentic to yourself and you're moving and operating in a way that honors the totality of you. So you can be ratchet, you can be bougie, you can be everything in between. But the first thing that you have to do is to recognize and understand who you actually are. Because what you're saying about media and the images that they're putting in front of young Black girls, especially,
Yes.
is demeaning, demoralizing, and minimizing. Why? Because, and I'm going to say it without apology, Black women are God in human form. We determine the energy of this planet. And so, as long as you can keep Black women thinking that they are smaller than they are, nothing in our society will really change to impact the people who are in power or to force people and things to change. But if you've ever seen a Black woman who knows who she is, who knows her value, and who knows her worth, she's unstoppable.
Yes.
She's
Yes.
unstoppable. And she cares about the other people around her. And she's going to do something about it.
I love that, because a lot of people sometimes will say or believe that feminine power is weak. And in reality, feminine power is one of the strongest energies that you can actually be in.
Mm-hmm.
So, can you describe, and in your own words, what feminine energy looks like or feels like? Because I know for me, I've been an entrepreneur most of my life and a single mom, had to raise my boys, and I used to feel like I had to be strong. And there was actually
Mm-hmm.
an era where I used to be the single mom that would say, Happy Father's Day to the women who also do both jobs. And I don't say that anymore, because I've realized is silly, and that was taught to me, and that when I remember almost to the day when I had that realization that that was foolish. And I not knocking anybody who believes that, but the reason I don't believe it anymore is because I had to have the realization that I could never be a man to my sons, nor do I need to be. If I need to be their mother, period. Whether you're providing or not, it's just a different world, that we live in. But I want to know your description of feminine energy and the feeling of it, and the freedom in it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
How would you
So,
describe that?
um, let me give you a full scope example, right, of how feminine energy operates first, if you'll allow me to. So,
Absolutely. Step on
there's
it.
so there's so much talk about creating your life and the manifestation process and how to bring things in and all of that, right? And manifesting, the manifestation process of creation is actually the masculine form. It's the doing. Write in your journal, say your affirmations, do this thing. And one of the reasons why I believe people don't really get what they want is because they have neglected to bring in the feminine aspect of creation. And the church does this too. It's the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit instead of the Father, the Mother, and the child. And
Which
so
is
femininity,
African. It's African
exactly.
teaching. Yeah.
Right, right. In African spirituality and indigenous teachings, the feminine aspect is there. So when we think about creation and you think about the masculine component of manifesting by way of doing, The feminine component simply allows. This is
Yeah.
when you've evolved past the hard work and the doing, or you simply opt out of the hard work and you know that what is aligned with you is going to come. So, feminine energy is about positioning, it is about posturing, it is about knowing that you deserve what you want and that you are in alignment with it. So, it's already coming, right? That's why I love how strong femininity actually is, because she don't have to do nothing. She
Mm.
knows who she is. She recognizes her power. She understands that she's sacred and she's divine and she's connected to the higher source of everything. And so there is a certainty in femininity. There is an assurance in femininity. There is a power in femininity that does not have to push or force. It simply draws in and calls in and positions there and receives it. So, femininity is about allowing yourself to be supported. It is about saying yes to what you want. It is about not operating in a poverty mindset, but knowing that you live a life of abundance. So, that type of strength is one that will surpass masculine strength and the forceful strength that we think we're supposed to have. It's about the spiritual and the emotional alignment with the mental and the physical.
Whew. So this was perfect timing that we're talking in this year, because the allowing that I have experienced over the last few years, that allowing feeling is totally different in the dating world. Because from my personal experience, there was more of a worry in the past where
Mhm.
you start talking to someone, you know, you have the vibe, you communicate, you're trying to hold off and all that stuff. And then once it happens, it's like, oh my God, is he going to call me? Is he going to
Yeah.
And you get into this stage where you don't even realize it, but you're blocked, like you're pushing it away. If anything, it becomes not as enticing when you're the one like this, because that's not naturally what we're supposed to do.
No, not at all.
And then the last few years, it's like, oh, look at you two. Oh, okay. Yo, we got options. Not saying, that you deal with everybody, but you know what I mean in regards to being okay with options and having
Mhm.
you be the one that decide. Um, man, that was beautiful. So
I tell my clients to date them all.
you see why? So let's talk about that, because a lot of people confuse date them all with sleeping with them all. And that's not the case. If I'm saying I got a roster just means candidates that I'm collecting information from to see who's the best person for me, and even vice versa, right?
Right.
But can you describe what you think is a healthy dating process? Because there's a lot of people who are still they're in their 30s, their 40s, even 50s and 60s looking
Mm-hmm.
for love. But in this world, I feel like, and you can disagree or agree with me, but I feel like there's a lot of people who develop situationships versus trying to actually create the relationship that they want. But what do you think is a healthy dating dynamic?
So I actually have a really simple dating formula, dating strategy that I give to clients that I can share here, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's called the love formula, LOVE. The L stands for living in love. That's about you cultivating your best single life,
Mm-hmm.
operating in love and in partnership with yourself and enjoying life, experiencing pleasure and play and all of those things, because that's going to attract that type of energy to you. The O in the formula is for optimizing your options. And that's what we're talking here when I'm saying date them all. Now, not everyone gets access to date you, but all of those that have potential, all of those that you are interested in, all of those who you see as possible partners, you get to date them, because the act of dating is not about learning the other person as much as it's about learning yourself. What do I like about this experience? What don't I like about this experience? Who am I in connection to this person, right? Who does this individual help me or allow me to be? What aspects of myself do I get to experience in this new way with this particular guy? Because you may sit across someone and be like, oh, he's nice and he's kind, but it may feel very safe. Mm-hmm. And so it creates a safe version of you. And then you may go out on Thursday with Mike and you're like, ooh, I feel a little spicy, a little saucy, right? Because that connection is helping you to experience that part of you. So that's really what having dating options is about. It's not about sleeping with anyone. It's not even about kissing anyone, because I also have a touch timeline that I give clients as well, because dating should be strategic. So you are learning about yourself. Mm-hmm. What do I like? Who do I like?
What do you think is a timeline to kiss?
So the girls be mad at me, child. They get upset with me because I really believe that there have to be strong boundaries in place, right? Because men are going to be men and we should allow them to be men.
Yeah.
But they're governed by their hormones and their bodies. And so if you want a man to get to know you outside of his own chemical experiences that he's having in his own body, then there have to be some guidelines in place. And so there is no kissing before 30 days. Before 30 days.
Wait, but how many days they don't win on now?
So, right.
So win on 6 days.
Here's the thing. 30 days or 4 days.
Oh, okay.
Right? So that's 30 days or 4 days. But I give a weekly timeline because you should not give a man enough access to you to have dated you more than 4 times in 30 days. Let him know you have a life.
Yeah, that's true.
Right? Not only 4 or 5 dates and it's only been 2 weeks. No, I have work, I have hobbies, I may have children, I have family, I have my own time. So 1 date a week so that you can pace yourself, so that you can learn him, so that you can see how he operates in the in-between time. Because here's the thing. When I'm face to face, I can seduce you. I can manipulate you. I can make you think I am going to be committed and consistent and all of these things. But during the time when we're not together, that's when you actually learn who he is. You're learning about yourself on the date. You're learning about him in between, right? So there's no physical touch in sort of that first 4-week area because you have to set a boundary. And men are achievement focused. You have to teach him to achieve different areas of intimacy that he gets to unlock as he moves on the journey with you. Right. So there are other things there, but sometimes the girls are like 30 days, Fila. That's too long.
You do think, damn, like, but you're thinking 30 as if you've seen the person. But then when you hit them with the, wait a minute, because that's true. Even in, and I tend to, what I've been doing for myself personally is I try to think I'm doing business because that's where I flourish the most. There's been times, and I also learned that I used to get butterflies and act, oh my God, it's a guy! Like get so dipsy doodle if it's someone I like. And I realized that that's not healthy. So it's like, not that it's unhealthy to feel anything, right? I'm not saying don't feel anything. But in my brain, if it's work related, I can talk to you till I'm blue in the face. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And so in business, I was taught that you cannot be available all the time, anytime, everywhere. You know, oh, you're supposed to be at every party. You're supposed to make appearances and bounce. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So take of it when I take it in that area and think of it in that terms, that makes logical sense.
Right.
If you're always available for this person don't got time to meet you, to miss you, or to anticipate who this is. The intriguement goes away.
Exactly. And, you know, if you are dating 2 to 3 people at a time, which I think is a healthy balance, you're going to need space in between, right? Sometimes those butterflies that we think that this is an indication that, oh, I like him, I feel good. Sometimes those butterflies are really messages your body is sending you to tell you we've been here before. We've experienced this before, and maybe this is not the safest place for us.
Yeah.
And so you need to be strategic in this process so that you can ask yourself, what was my body telling me? Because your body is a compass, baby. It will tell you if you need to go
Yes.
north, south, east, or west, and if this is a good situation for you or not. But if we get so hyped up on the idea, because that's what most women do, most
Yeah.
women have an idea of what they want a man to be. And when they are actually sitting across from him, you can't see him because your idea of who you want him to be is blocking who he actually is. So when
Yeah.
you pace yourself and you learn to be disciplined, right? You learn to keep that commitment to yourself. You have a touch timeline where you already know what you're allowing and what you're not. And you're operating in queenship as
Yeah.
opposed to wanting princess energy. You show up in a completely different way. And then you are really sure that you're the prize. And
Yeah.
so you don't pursue and you don't chase, you just position and you learn and you engage and you allow. That's how you know you're in your femininity in that particular space. But it takes time and it takes practice and it takes work. And that is why I'm here, child.
I don't chase some we reflect. No, I'm just kidding. That's a joke. I just want to emphasize something about the body, and I'm going to be transparent for a moment with our listeners because I want to very much emphasize that your body does tell you. I was in a relationship a few years ago, or more than a few years ago, and
Mm-hmm.
I could not. I thought I was going through early menopause because
Mm-hmm.
my my body was not reacting to this man. When I tell
Mm-hmm.
you it was shutting off, I had, if you looked at my Amazon Prime chart card in like that year, I probably brought so many fertility pills, try to get her to work pills. And then when the relationship ended and a few years later I had another experience sexually, I had no issues.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, wait a minute, my body was not only, and I wouldn't just experience things sexually, I would experience what I thought was just me overthinking when it really was my body trying to warn me that this is not what you call a safe place. But your body is so powerful that it will tell you, not just like your skin is one thing. Like I always know when my cycle's about to come on because my skin start peeling, and it acts crazy. But it will tell you if this person is supposed to be entering you or not because it will, girl, when I tell you it shut off, it shut off. I was nervous. Okay. And so I just want to emphasize that to women. Don't ignore the signs within because
Mm-hmm.
your body, like you said, we are God in human form, us as Black women. And so you gotta listen, y'all. Listen to within because it will definitely tell you. Because I've never would thought that that was even a thing,
Mm-hmm.
but it was. It
Yeah.
definitely was.
Yeah.
Um,
And I'll just say that I've heard this from clients. So it
it's
happens.
real.
It
It is
happens.
real, like sandpaper. If they are not, and I don't mean just not interested, y'all. I'm not saying that. I'm saying your body will react if it's unsafe or if unsafe in many different levels. If this person is not just with, I think our body is just intertwined.
Yeah.
I believe in soul ties. I believe in these things because biology is not a lie. Like, you carry these things, you even start acting like people. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
if you're not careful. And speaking of which, I want to ask you this question because you brought up you were named after your grandma. I'm gonna go back for a little bit. And you said, even though she's not here, her energy is still here.
Yeah.
And sometimes I love my grandmother to death. Like that's what made me move. When she passed, I left North Carolina,
Mm.
New Jersey, came to North Carolina, and she was one of my favorite people. She was the most favorite person that I've ever known, right?
Yeah.
So, but sometimes I'll be like doing things, and I have things that memorabilia of her around and different things. But sometimes I feel like I'm her in this weird way of like I'm experiencing some of her things um spiritually as if the baton was passed and it wasn't completed. But it's like almost surreal, like if it was her. But do you ever experience those kind of things? Do you think that's real?
So I will say this. I'm a deeply spiritual person.
Mhm.
I do believe that we are all an extension of all of the ancestors before us.
Okay.
And so you are, I am an answered prayer of our grandmothers and their grandmothers and their grandmothers, right? You're not able to simultaneously live out every single thing that you're supposed to do for your lineage. And
Yeah.
so there's you, and then you have a child, and your child has a child. And so it allows us spiritually to experience the things we need to heal our legacy. That's a part of my belief.
Mhm.
I also believe that each of us is simply a dot in the puzzle.
Mhm.
And so you're doing your part because what your mother was not able to do, she created you to be able to facilitate and complete. Right. And all of that is on a spiritual, psychological level. But when we talk about on the physical level, genetics are amazing. And I had a client who is a scientist and who's a geneticist because Black women are just out here just doing all of these amazing, wonderful things,
Girl,
right?
my doctor is a Black woman. My every
Yes,
girl, I won't get into it, but snap, snap to that.
all of that. And there were so many things that I've always felt that when I was able to have these really scientific conversations with her and with other Black women scientists and geneticists, I learned that we each impact at least 3 generations
Mm.
physically. As a woman, you are born with every egg you will ever hold within your womb. So your girl children exist within you, which means that their girl children exist within them. So there are 3 generations being impacted by the life that you're living and the choices that you are making and the experiences that you are having. And so it is possible for you to feel, recognize, and remember even memories that your grandmother had because you were within her while
Mm.
she was living and experiencing those things. And I'm not a scientist or a geneticist, so this is a very simplified version of explanation of this, but we impact ourselves and we impact each other. And so there are times where I may be in the kitchen cooking. My grandmother cooked us Sunday dinner all the time, and I will physically feel like I am
Yeah.
embodying her.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like, what the hell was that? Like,
Mm.
you know, not like someone
I just
jumped
I
in.
just make room. I just say,
Yeah,
"Hey grandma, come on in."
yeah, not like somebody jumps into your body, but it's just like a oof.
Such a
It's
presence.
yeah, it's just a presence. Okay.
Yeah.
Um. Okay, so I can't believe it's already 15 minutes into the
Girl,
podcast.
I'm like, it's almost an hour
Yeah,
already.
we've been just talking and talking. Um. Before we get into our true, honest opinions toward success, T.
Mhm.
Um. I want to talk about Black men just for a moment.
Yes.
Um, and we both have Black sons.
Mhm.
Um, what do you think that, and for my sons, let me just say this. Those dudes are amazing. Like they cater, they court, they have girlfriends, it hasn't been a of them, thank God. It's only they're only 21 and 20, but the
Mhm.
way that they're moving, I'm very appreciative of that to see that. But what do you think day to day? And we can't really say because we're women, but you
Yeah.
at least have experience because you are with someone for over 20 years. What do you
Mhm.
think is something that we can do as women for Black men that could help us towards moving in the direction of making the statistics, the stats, and all those things lessen
Mhm.
in our communities?
One of the most important things I think that we need to do and we can do as Black women who want to create safety for Black men is to allow Black men to express their raw emotions to us
Yeah.
without us making it about us. And what I mean by that is when a man comes into the space and says, I feel sad, I feel hurt, I feel whatever, most of the times the woman in his life will internalize that and make it mean something about her, right? So let's say if my man feels tired, then maybe he doesn't want to work enough and provide these things for me. So now I become afraid that I won't have the things. And I say to him, well, this is what you're supposed to do, or this is what a man does, or you can get over it, or I'm tired too, but you can do. Instead of doing those things, what we need to begin to do is simply allow Black men to express their emotions and communicate their emotional needs. So that then looks like a man saying, I had a really hard day today and I don't feel strong, or I feel sad, or I feel depressed, or I feel neglected, whatever that thing is. And as Black women, we need to simply sit and say, I hear you. What else do you feel? To simply allow space for Black men to express themselves emotionally without judgment, without us sucking the air out of the room and making it about our needs, and without us boxing them into some toxic masculine image that we think they're supposed to always uphold, and simply making space for them. That's the first thing. I think the second thing is for us to then listen to what Black men are telling us and to affirm the things that they are doing in our lives that are worth affirming, that are worth acknowledging, right? I say to my husband often, I love you and I appreciate you, right? You're an amazing father. You're such a good husband. You're even the little things. Some days I'm just talking about, like, how he opened a box or how he lifted a thing. And there are times where we get into it and all of those things. And so we don't have a perfect relationship, but that's part of the foundation of simply affirming him and of not constantly telling him what he's doing wrong or constantly adding more pressure to his shoulders about what I need, right? So making safe space for Black men to tell us what they feel, listening to those things, and then affirming the things that they are doing right, and not making everything about us, because that's what women have been taught to do. And I think if we can begin to do those things a little bit more often for Black men, they'll begin to feel safe with us again. They'll begin to feel supported by us again. And then they will be able to show up within the family in a way that actually benefits everyone.
Whew. Girl, I'm gonna have to bring you back on this thing. I can't believe it's supposed to be
anytime, girl. Anytime.
So, just one more question to that. Now, a lot of men don't get to a place where I had a guest on here. He was one of the first in this season. He said he's never, ever felt safe enough to express anything to a woman, because when he did, they use it against him later, so he doesn't open up. Is there anything that you would suggest to a Black man to get to that place? And how do we make them feel safe if they don't know that they are?
So first and foremost, it's about building that muscle.
Yeah.
Right. And being comfortable with yourself, because the thing is, if I don't feel safe with you, but I feel safe within myself, then I'm going to leave you and I'm going to find a safe person, a safe place, a safe space.
Yeah.
But if Black men have internalized the idea that they don't get to be sad, they don't get to be emotional, they have an insecurity internally. And so what these men are looking for is for the people or the women in their lives to validate that it's okay. And when that validation doesn't come, they close up. But you have to be diligent in pursuing your own personal healing. That goes for everyone. If you know that there are things that you need to talk about and the people in your immediate circle don't allow you to, seek another circle or seek a professional. There are people that you can pay just to listen to you talk about what you feel. And those people can actually help you work through those emotions, work through those feelings, which will then result in you attracting a different circle of people who will help you and who will allow you to be safe in the space and who will want to help you further your journey. But no one is responsible for your safety or your healing in the same way that you are. So Black men have to commit to their own wellness and say, I'm going to do what I need to for myself to get well first. Then I will allow a woman or someone to come into my life.
I love that. I love that. I love
Yeah.
that.
and
So,
and I do just want to say, so much of what we believe masculinity is and so much of a man's identity is around how many women he can have. So I recognize that it may be difficult to stop seeing women, to stop sleeping with women, to stop finding your validation and your worth in women, but that may be what it will take for a time so that he can discover who he is and what he actually needs, and then give that to himself.
yeah, and I love that you said that because it is such a false sense, and it's even like a lot of men who've been taken advantage of at young when they're young. They can't say nothing because it's like, oh, you're not being a man if you think that that's weird, and it is.
Mm-hmm.
And I swear this is my last question, but do you think you believe that there's two energies, right? A woman can have and a man, correct me if I'm right or wrong, a woman and a man can have both feminine and masculine energy.
Absolutely. We live in a world, a universe, a dimension of duality. There's good and bad, there's light and dark, there's up and down, there's big and little, and there's masculine and feminine. And so we each embody both of those energies. But some of us are either masculine dominant or feminine dominant, right? And you get to decide what works for you. For most women, and I'm not saying all, but for most women, we are generally feminine dominant.
Right.
And that's when we are most likely operating in alignment with our natural selves. We see what happens when most women are masculine dominant, right? This is when you believe, oh, I don't need a man. Happy Father's Day to me.
Yeah.
You are creating all these barriers and blocks and all of that. So yes, we carry all of the energy, and so does every living thing in nature. But we are designed in a way where most women are in a healthy emotional state when they are operating from a feminine dominant space.
Okay, Fila. I won't ask another question, but I got like eight. But anyway, I'm just kidding. All right, so I love that. I love this entire. This is going to be so impactful to so many people. I just want to talk about this very briefly, because we always do like a tea or something that's that's relevant. And when it's air, it might not be as relevant. But when you saw the situation with the teacher,
Yes.
and he let the girls braid his hair, not braid his hair, undo his braids. What was your thoughts on that?
Lots of thoughts, lots of things. I believe that we have a society that just has messy boundaries right now. First and foremost, right? Messy boundaries,
Right.
because so much of our lives is spent on social media and is spent in viewing things that push boundaries. Everything is shown, everything is shared. So there's an issue with boundaries. That's number one. I do believe he crossed the line and there was a boundary that should have been in place, but it wasn't. That's the first thing. The second thing is, I believe that there is a lack of Black male masculinity in schools. And
Mm.
so there may be young girls who don't have fathers at home who are drawn to that masculine energy, especially if it feels safe, right? And so
Yeah.
they want to be around that. The third thing is that I think that teachers are trying to find ways to be relatable to their student body
Yeah.
and to help make their children feel like this is a safe space. So all of those things I think were going on at the same time, but it was a clear mistake.
Yeah.
Just put it plainly. It was a mistake on that teacher's part. I am not necessarily of the mindset that he should have been fired and thrown out and all that. I think there should have been some training put in place,
Yeah.
because teachers aren't getting the resources that they need when they come into the school system.
No.
And so often they're having to find their own way. So it's a number of challenges and issues. The education system, especially in urban environments, maybe needs an overhaul. But for me, it was about boundaries, it was about access, and it was about a lack of structure and order within that specific situation.
Yeah, I agree. I think the fact that he recorded it is a sign that he definitely didn't think that it was wrong. Because
Right.
why would you record that? But then
Yeah.
it's Thanksgiving that he did,
Mhm.
because then we wouldn't be here having this conversation, you
Right.
know.
And that
Um,
also shows the issue with boundaries, right?
yeah,
Are you a teacher, or are you a content creator, or are you an
yeah,
influencer? Like, there have to be boundaries. And when it
right.
comes to recording folks' children in general, that's not necessarily something that should be happening. And when it comes to physical touch,
Touch, yeah,
that
your hands
also
touch.
creates another level of
Yeah,
like, ugh. So
yeah, I agree
there are a
with that.
lot of things going on there that, need to be addressed.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. All right, well, I'm not going to hold you hostage. Last thing, and then we're going to get into how everybody can get in touch with you, because I know my line is going to be blowing up. This is a quote of the week, and I just wanted, when you read this, what comes to mind? Self love is listening to yourself when no one else can hear.
For me, that speaks to intuition. It
Mm,
speaks to your internal connection and what your internal environment is saying to you, and whether or not you are being kind to yourself, and whether or not you are being a good partner to yourself. That's what self-love is. It's about hearing the internal voice, and that internal voice actually nourishing you and not depleting you.
mm. I like that. I like that. I like that a lot. Now I like this even more. The Sacred
Yeah.
Queen Academy. Oh
And the
shoot.
sacred queendom. Yes.
Sorry.
That's okay, love.
And the Sacred Queendom.
Yes, ma'am.
That might have been and it's queen and then dumb, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Queendom.
Okay.
A
That
sacred
could have
queen.
been Siri thinking minding my business when she thought she knew everything. But anyway, Sacred Queen Academy and the Sacred Queendom.
Yes.
How can they get in? I do have this link, but if there's another one, I know I got to everything I needed to know about you from this. But
Hmm.
tell us about how we can find you, what you have coming up, how your what does your program look like for, or who I know for sure is for the Black woman.
Hmm.
But tell us about how to find you and what you have coming up and all that jazz.
Absolutely. So you can find me across all social media platforms at She Is Fila. SHEISFILA. On TikTok, on Instagram, on Threads, on YouTube, at She Is Fila. And you can also find more information about the specific services I offer on my website, filaantwine.com. But my signature offer is Sacred Queen Academy. It is a 90-day private coaching program where we focus on three things: your healing, your happiness, and your wholeness. It's
Mm,
about resolving trauma, taking sacred care of yourself, reconnecting to your femininity, and then creating healthy relationships. So it is holistic coaching for the successful, the ambitious, the powerful Black woman and women of color who have it all together, but there's something just missing, and they don't feel the fulfillment in their personal lives, and there are areas in relationships that are eluding them. Sacred Queen Academy is the place where you come to be filled up, to refocus on yourself, and to get the tools, the tips, the support, the sisterhood, and the coaching, as well as the strategy you need to put in place to live a life of love, peace, and passion.
whew. Y'all just got a treat. Fila is in the building. Follow her on all social media at She Is Fila. Okay. And don't think that's her whole name like I did, y'all. But definitely follow her there. Our episodes air every single Sunday at midnight on your listening podcast, but this will be live on um, Facebook and YouTube when it airs. And we are so excited to have you here. Thank you for your time, your energy, your insight. We love you here. I love you. I still got my sweatshirt, but I gained a little weight, so I can't really wear it right
I
now.
love you too, girl. I'm so glad, so happy to have you, so happy that you had me, and so happy to have had this time with you. So thank you for having me, and have me back anytime.
All right, we're going to get right out of here, and then always lead your week with love, peace, and hair grease. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of T.H.O.T.S Podcast, true, honest opinions towards success. We hope you enjoyed today's episode, and don't forget to leave us a review, share your thoughts in the comments, and your reviews literally help us to improve and create content that resonate with you. Until next time, love, peace, and hair grease. Bye.